You're the calm one. You always have been. In every argument, every crisis, every room where someone else is losing it, you're the steady presence. The one who doesn't raise their voice. The one who listens. The one who says, "It's fine. Don't worry about it." People have told you this is a gift your whole life. Your parents praised it. Your teachers wrote it on report cards. Your partners lean on it. You're so even-keeled. You never get angry. And somewhere along the way, you started to believe them. But here's what nobody told you. The anger didn't disappear. It didn't evaporate because you were mature enough to let things go. It went somewhere else. Somewhere quieter. Somewhere inside a body that's been holding it for years, in a jaw that stays tight, in a stomach that never quite settles, in a restlessness you can't explain at 2 a.m. when nothing is technically wrong. You didn't master your anger. You buried it. And the thing about burial is, what's underground doesn't stay still. There's a specific kind of person who genuinely doesn't recognize their own anger. Not because they're enlightened. But because the feeling was renamed so early in their life that they never learned what it was supposed to feel like. Ask them if they're angry and they'll say no. And they mean it. What they feel isn't the hot, visible rage they've been taught anger looks like, the slammed doors, the raised voices, the things people throw. So they conclude it's something else. Tiredness, maybe. A vague dissatisfaction. A low-level hum of something they can't name. That unnamed thing is anger. But it's been in disguise for so long that it's forgotten its original form. It learned to wear other faces: withdrawal, perfectionism, dry humor with just enough edge, helpfulness that never quite feels like a choice. It learned to be quiet because being loud was never safe. Here's what most people miss. Anger isn't just the explosion. It isn't just the moment someone finally snaps. Anger is information. It's the nervous system's way of saying, something here violates what you need. It's the oldest boundary signal your body has. When you stop hearing that signal, you don't become peaceful. You become numb to something that was trying to protect you. This didn't start in adulthood. Think about what happened the first time you showed anger as a child. Not a tantrum, that's too easy to dismiss. Think about the first time something genuinely hurt you, or frustrated you, or felt deeply unfair, and you showed it. What happened in that room? For some people, the response was explosive, an adult who couldn't handle the emotion, who matched it or exceeded it, who made showing anger feel dangerous. You learned, if I feel this, things escalate. If I feel this, I lose control of the situation. For others, the response was something subtler and in many ways more damaging. Disappointment. A cold silence. A look that said we don't do that here. A parent who needed you to be easy, so you became easy. A home where love felt conditional on staying calm. Either way, your nervous system did exactly what it was designed to do. It adapted. It took the feeling that caused problems and started rerouting it. Not deleting it, your brain can't delete emotions, no matter how much we'd like it to. Just redirecting it. Finding other exits. Quieter ones. You became the child who was easier to love because of it. And that got reinforced, over and over, until it stopped feeling like a strategy and started feeling like personality. Your mind learned to stop acknowledging anger. Your body never got the memo. This is the part that most people don't see coming, because we've been taught to think about emotions as something that happens in the head, thoughts, feelings, perspective. We forget that emotions are physiological events. They start in the body. Cortisol. Adrenaline. Muscle tension. Elevated heart rate. When you experience something anger-inducing and your mind immediately says this is fine, let it go, the emotional signal doesn't simply stop. The thought stops. The cognitive label stops. But the body's response is already in motion. And if it has nowhere to go, no expression, no physical release, no acknowledgement, it stays. Stored in tissue. In the tightness of your shoulders. In the shallow quality of your breath in difficult conversations. In the chronic tension headaches that have no obvious cause. Researchers who study the relationship between emotional suppression and physical health have found a consistent pattern. People who habitually suppress what they feel, anger especially, tend to carry higher baseline levels of physiological stress, even when they report feeling fine. Their bodies are working harder than they know. This is not metaphor. This is not someone being dramatic about their feelings. This is the nervous system running a process that was never allowed to complete. Here's where it gets complicated. Because the people who never show anger don't just carry it internally. They build entire relationship structures around it. They become the person everyone else can collapse in front of. The emotional container. The one who holds space while never being held. They attract people who feel comfortable being volatile around them, because they've signaled, for years, that volatility is safe with them, that it won't be met with anything difficult in return. And on the surface, this looks like generosity. It looks like emotional strength. But underneath, something else is happening. Every time you absorb someone's anger without naming your own, a small account goes uncollected. Every time you say it's fine when it isn't, you make a deposit into a ledger nobody else knows exists. The relationship continues, warm on its face, while somewhere below the surface resentment accumulates the way debt does, quietly, compounding, until one day the number is too large to ignore. Some people reach that point and leave relationships suddenly, in ways that shock the people they leave. Others stay and grow dimmer. The warmth that was once genuine starts to feel performed. They're still there, still helpful, still calm, but something has gone out behind their eyes that didn't used to be gone. You didn't lose friends. You just slowly stopped being able to afford them. When anger can't move outward, it moves inward. This is one of the oldest and most consistent observations in psychology. Suppressed anger doesn't disappear, it redirects. And the most accessible target is always the self. It sounds like this: should have handled that better. Why do I always let people walk over me? I'm too sensitive. I'm not good enough to expect more than this. The voice is relentlessly critical. It sounds like high standards. It sounds like self-awareness. But if you listen carefully, it has the same energy as anger, the same heat, the same sharpness, except instead of pointing outward at a situation that failed you, it points inward at the person who failed to prevent it. This is where chronic low-level depression often lives. Not in sadness, exactly, but in this redirected anger that has nowhere else to go. The person isn't crying. They're exhausted. They're flat. They've been fighting themselves for so long that there's no energy left for much else. And the cruel irony is that the very thing they were praised for, their calm, their equanimity, their easy presence, is the mechanism creating the damage. They've been applauded for years for doing the thing that's quietly hollowing them out. People have a name for what you do. They call you easygoing. They call you low maintenance. They call you mature. Sometimes, in their most vulnerable moments, they'll tell you they've never met anyone as patient as you. What they don't see, because you never let them, is the patience you feel toward them isn't always genuine. Sometimes it's exhaustion wearing the face of acceptance. Sometimes it's fear wearing the face of calm. Sometimes it's the oldest survival strategy you have, so deeply internalized that you can no longer tell where the strategy ends and you begin. They call you selfless. What they mean, without knowing it, is that you've made yourself easy to be around at a cost they've never been asked to pay. They'll sometimes notice something's wrong, a stiffness in your responses, a distance that wasn't there before, and they'll ask, "Are you okay?" And you'll say yes, because you always say yes, because you haven't had language for the alternative since you were 7 years old. That's not maturity. That's a child's adaptation still running in an adult's body. Here's what most people never tell you about anger. It knows things. It knows when you've been treated as less than you are. It knows when a line was crossed that should have held. It knows when someone took more than they gave and called it a fair exchange. Anger is one of the most accurate social sensors the human nervous system has. It reads power dynamics, detects violations of value, flags situations where your boundaries weren't respected. You've been suppressing one of your most honest instruments. The people who've been taught that anger is ugly, dangerous, shameful, they don't lose the insight. They just lose access to it. They continue to be treated in ways their anger would have flagged, except now there's no flag. Just a vague discomfort they can't trace to anything specific. Just a sense that something is off that they can never quite articulate. And so they stay too long in situations that weren't right for them. They give too much to people who weren't earning it. They minimize violations that their nervous system clocked perfectly well but their conscious mind refused to name. Your anger was never the enemy. It was the part of you that was paying the most attention. There is no 5-step process here. No instruction for what to do next. What there is this. The fact that you've spent years not feeling your anger doesn't mean you don't have any. It means you've been extraordinarily good at protecting other people from something that was rightfully yours to feel. You've been generous with your comfort in a way that cost you your voice. You've been mistaken for calm when you were just well trained. And that training served you once. It kept a certain kind of peace in rooms where peace was necessary. It made you someone people could rely on when they needed somewhere solid to land. But you're not a room for other people. You're a person. And persons need the full range of what they feel, including the hot, inconvenient, necessary truth that sometimes says, "This isn't working, this isn't fair, this isn't something I'm willing to absorb one more time." That voice isn't your worst self. It might be, after all this time, the most honest one you have. Somewhere underneath the calm that everyone admires, there is someone who has been paying very close attention. The question isn't whether they're angry. The question is whether you'll finally let them speak.